anyways, the absence of video and photo throughout history kind of makes me wonder what has been made up, what has been lied about. Because people like to make up stories. We have a long history here on Earth. We've only had video and photo for a couple hundred years. Beyond that, we have some drawings. If you're to believe those, then do you believe that people were half animal? And for most of those cultures, we know that they did that as a form of art or some type of worship or something like that, but that's just from stories as well. The ancient Egyptian drawings are some crazy looking things. What I didn't realize is that a lot of those drawings are just the style that they enjoyed back then. They liked that style. It looked like a 5-year-old drew that stuff. Well, that's like their main form of art. They could actually make things that look lifelike, just like they can today with paintings. But they didn't back then because that was their artwork back then. But you have to wonder how much of our recent history is all jacked up as well.
What's going on, guys? Here are some topics of history that will be extremely controversial. I'll be surprised if I don't get a lot of hate for this one, but we'll see how it goes. So most of American slaves came from Africa, obviously. The Congo and Nigeria were both huge percentages of the slave market. The N word is short for Nigerian, which made up nearly 30% of the slaves coming to the US. These areas were murdering each other in horrific ways, enslaving each other and selling each other. The United States decided to take advantage of this situation and started purchasing free labor, which helped make the America we know today, which, as we all know, is completely free. Kinda. Nigeria still, to this day, has almost 1% of its population enslaved. Also, to this day, the Congo tribes still kill and even eat each other, as cannibalism is normal among tribes there. These environments are extremely hostile and poor. Black people in the United States were plentiful and they were also free. They made up upwards of 40% of head of households in some states like South Carolina. Free black Americans had a very high slave ownership rate, and during the years of slavery, they were not okay with the word slave being associated with free black Americans.
So every time I go back and read through stuff that our founding fathers wrote, it always surprises me how proper they were and how kind they were to all races. It's not, I think our history is a little bit messed up. I think a lot of it is to pit each other against one another. Dude, this trail is so rocky.
There seem to be only stories of mistreatment of those people when you listen to or watch Hollywood films or read modern day text. However, when I go back and read documents from that time, it really tells a different story. Slaves in America were allowed to own land, own businesses, and hold a job. Abraham Lincoln stated on several occasions that the slaves should be freed, but not into American society. He thought that they could never fit in the American culture as their culture was so much different. His idea was to free slaves back to their homelands, and that did not go over well with slaves at that time. They enjoyed America very much and had zero interest in going home. Here is what Frederick Douglass had to say on the matter. We live here, we have lived here, we have a right to live here, and mean to live here. Abraham Lincoln hired companies to start taking all slaves either to their homes or safer places. He was assassinated by John Wilkes during this time. I know there was mistreatment of people. I know that slavery is wrong, of course. Those aren't my arguments. My argument is a changed history that Americans have very little knowledge about. This history is used to divide us instead of bring us together. What happened back then really doesn't matter. Only what happens today matters. So let's stop hiring people because they are a certain color or gender. Let's press reset and let people be judged by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. That's all I have to say about that.
Abe Lincoln hired a company. He had a company hired because he was actually going to go through with it. He was going to send everybody back to wherever their home country was. But those people apparently could not stand their home countries and they wanted to stay in the United States. So, yeah, that's some weird stuff. Yeah, he had the company hired and everything. It was a huge ordeal that he was going through because it was a big old financial burden to have that done. Well, this is going to be gnarly to come back through. Well, anyways, there's stuff like that I read and I'm like, wow, that doesn't line up. I read people's journals from back then and like, yeah, I mean, as long as those are still around and not hidden from us, you can read how they talked and how they treated one another back then. You can definitely read through all that. And from what I can tell, they were extremely polite people, and they were, there was not a lot of the stuff that's going on today. For sure there were conflicts, but they were a people who really stood for their values. And like today, if they were alive today, we'd have civil wars going on for sure, no doubt about it. There is absolutely no way that we would be taxed as heavily as we are today. Every once in a while, some of this stuff moves, and then the thing underneath the thing that moved moves. With that chain reaction, it can really mess up your day. A little bit loaded up on the bottom there. Tried to bog on me. Even a good old Husqvarna will bog a little bit if you're idling along for too long. But I can tell you one thing. There was no confusion about what a boy or a girl is back then. That's for sure. And I think that's another distraction. It's like, who cares? I mean, don't argue with me about who a boy and a girl is. Don't compete against a girl if you're a boy. Just don't. It's mind-blowing that we have these kind of issues. I don't even like talking about it because it's so dumb. So dumb. We have bigger things to worry about. What about that billionaire island? Let's worry about that. Why doesn't everybody talk about that anymore? Lots of people have been killed in connection to that. People who were connected to it. It's not just the Clintons either. The Clintons and a whole bunch of other people were in on that one, including Oprah. I think Tom Hanks even took some trips there. Donald Trump is on that flight log apparently. He says that things were weird and he never went back. He was only on it once. That's his thing on it, but who knows? Look at this. Wow. What's going on, guys? Beautiful trail. It's a beautiful trail, man. It's a good one.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah.
It gets worse.
It gets worse? Yeah. What's that?
Seeing you on YouTube.
Oh, really? Sweet. Yeah, I'm always out here riding around, so